Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, real_G Warner, and this is Betting the Pitch number 179. Thank you for all the support, everyone who's been tuning into all these. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a international break soccer pod, but might as well jump into it. Please ignore the awful hair day one and the ridiculous allergies that I am dealing with, but hopefully you're listening and none of that is relevant to you. So I'm going to go through some international friendly matches, also the very important Euro 2024 qualifiers across a lot of Europe, at least the first matches of this international window. I'll preface this by saying it's hard to really know what teams will look like until lineups come out about an hour before a match starts. I will keep that in mind if I was you. And honestly, there's some value in grabbing numbers ahead of time, especially because we do have an idea based on squad lists that have come out from the different countries. But it's really hard to know, especially if there's a better or bigger game that's next in this qualifying window, specifically if we're talking about the European teams. They might be looking and eyeing that one as their more important of the two. But we start with like an England and Italy match. We have plenty of other great ones as well, which I'll get through. I'll try to touch on, give you some ideas based on the betting lines today, and then or what we have today. And then I'll probably look to do another podcast for the second set of matches early in the next week or so. Of course, got plenty of stuff on Patreon coming out for college basketball as well. If you're not subscribed there, I suggest that would be a great spot for you to get my all leans really across all sports on a daily basis. So without further ado, all lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juice is offered at almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. Okay, so now that that's in, we're going to go straight into the lines. I'll start with the international friendlies, as that's probably the less interesting of the matches that we have coming up. I'm going to go through, I guess, all the matches that are on BetOnline right now through Saturday, and then switch to the Euros, which I think is a lot more interesting, a lot more important, et cetera, et cetera. So we have some Thursday matches this afternoon. I'm recording this a couple hours before the matches kick off, so this might be a quick turnaround, but get on in there if you're interested. Hungary hosts Estonia. Currently, Hungary a 1.5 goal favorite. Over-unders 2 3/4, juiced very heavily to the under. I don't know that Estonia is really a competitive team. Pretty big number for Hungary to lay, but after watching Hungaria, as they say it, and really being mesmerized by their chance in Germany, I expect this to be a really tough environment for Estonia to go into. But it is an international friendly. It's not a Euro qualifier, despite being two European teams competing. I don't see a lot of value in getting in the way of Hungary. I feel like they're a team I still want to back as an underdog later in this window. Next match on Thursday is Argentina hosting Panama. Currently, Argentina a 4.25 goal favorite. Over-under is 4 3/4. Slightly juiced to the under. I don't know. I mean, clearly there's not a lot of respect for Panama here, but they are a CONCACAF team that have played really defensive football throughout all of qualifying for the World Cup, at least in the last kind of rush stages that the U.S., Canada, Mexico all got through. Argentina coming off a World Cup, hard to know what they're going to look like, what that squad's going to look like, especially for a friendly. But probably not something I'm going to get involved with. Australia then hosts Ecuador. Currently, Australia a pick'em with a little more juice on their side. Over-unders 2.25, juice to the under. Neither of these teams have much offense, in my humble opinion. Australia, I feel like greatly outperformed expectations in the World Cup, but I don't necessarily believe that they are a good team. I'd be looking to go against them as an underdog, especially because Ecuador, I feel like, is a really strong nation that has good soccer potential and played really well in getting to the World Cup. And I thought were very competitive in the World Cup as well. I think under 2.25 is most interesting to me on this list. I'll give an ultimate best bet end of show. That's certainly, I'm going to add that to the potentials because I do think that one's going to be a pretty low scoring match. It's going to be a little weird, and not all these matches are on home turf. Fair amount are played in like Saudi Arabia, kind of halfway mark between a lot of these countries, but I do believe this one is in Australia. And so I'll give Ecuador as the underdog. So I'll make Ecuador as on my list as the under 2.25 there. Japan then hosts Uruguay. These are also very early matches, which does suggest that they're in Asia. Early Friday morning. Japan a quarter goal favorite right now to Uruguay. Over under is 2.25, juice to the over. Japan we saw them in the World Cup. They're really solid, determined, but also well drilled, regimented defense. Uruguay, we've known them for so long with Cavani, and also who's I think is injured. Also Luis Suarez, who is no longer playing in Europe. I don't think. At least there's another Luis Suarez that does play, but not the one we all know who bites people. I don't know necessarily that I trust Uruguay as much as I trust the under in this one, just because I don't think that there's an Uruguay offense, especially on the other side of the world, that's going to be very impressive. I also think that there's still a little value in fading a Uruguay offense, who most people still think of as being this great team that has all those World Cup advancements behind them. And to me, it's kind of a different story, a different squad at this point. Japan is a slight favorite, is a little interesting to me. I'll admit, I guess I do lean to Uruguay as a side if I had to pick one, but I think under 2.25 is most interesting to me there. South Korea then hosts Colombia, currently another pick'em. Really awesome. They're having this series. I think it's like a Kirin Ichiban type of like beer sponsored event, maybe. I'm not sure there's more time than to play 2 matches, so there's a bunch of friendlies, I guess. But South Korea, slight it's pick 'em, but a little more juice on Colombia on the road. Over under is 2.25, and the juice is flat both ways. South Korea, I think, played a lot more aggressively front-footed football than I think a lot of people expected. Still have Heung-min Son, who's one of the scarier players all around. I think, boring, but here's another under lean for me, especially after watching Colombia crash out and not make the World Cup, largely because they couldn't score goals. It took them, I think they had like 10 consecutive matches where they did not score a goal, something ridiculous. And the goals that they did score seemed to be extremely fortunate. I don't really trust anyone to score from Colombia, despite having some really talented players like Luis Muriel and also Duvan Zapata, both at Atalanta, but haven't really had good years. Have been really injured for most of the time. So not sure there's much for me to do there besides lean under. South Korea, I think, also will try to counterattack, and that means they'll set up pretty defensively. When the home team's defensive, I think that points to under. Moving to Saturday, we have Germany hosting Peru. Currently, Germany a 1.5 goal favorite with a lot of juice right now. Over under is 3, with juice split both ways. Stop me if you heard this before, but I lean to under 3 here. The German offense has just not really been good for a long time, and they didn't make they didn't advance in the World Cup because of it. You could argue that there are some questions about some calls and things of that nature, but ultimately, I just don't think Germany are an offense that anyone can trust at this point. They will be playing in front of big stadiums. I believe this one is in Cologne, if I'm not mistaken, or this one might be in where Mainz play, whatever town that is. And I imagine it's going to have a pretty good setup, but I will say I went to the German national match, one that was not a friendly that mattered, against Hungary, Hungaria, and there was so much more noise coming from the Hungarian fans, the Magyars, than there were from the Germans. And that makes me feel like there's a little bit of value even going against Germany. Peru, they set up defensively. They want to counterattack you. I don't think that style has changed. I need to check that the same manager is around so I can trust that. But it nearly got them into the World Cup. They were a favorite to win a playoff match to get in, did not, lost in penalties, I believe, to Australia. But Peru are good, and I don't believe in Germany, so I lean to Peru getting that 1.5 and also the under 3. Last but not least that I have for available lines is Morocco hosting Brazil. Currently Morocco a 1-goal underdog with a ton of juice. Over under is 2.5. Juice to the over. I imagine this one will probably close 1, though it might be very juicy at that point. I'm seeing a minus 136 right now at Bet Online, so $136 win 100. I do like the idea of getting the safety on that +1, but I also feel like Morocco is very overvalued at this point because of their incredible World Cup run, progressing further than the Brazilians did. I don't think that'll continue or is likely to show up. I think that might have been a one-time thing. Very interested to see how Morocco move forward because they've got a lot of young talent, but I'm not necessarily a believer. Not really a believer in a lot, I got to say there. And that'll wrap up the international friendlies portion of this podcast, but there's plenty of Euro stuff, so stick around for that. Also got a pregame.com promo code, which I'll get to before the ultimate best bet, and a couple shout outs as well. For my best bet that'll qualify for the ultimate best bet on this episode, I'm going to go with that under 2.25 in Australia and Ecuador. So now I'm going to move to the UEFA portion. It's also hard to find these lines on a lot of the American betting sites, but keep looking around. I promise you that you'll find them eventually. We'll start today with Bosnia and Herzegovina hosting Iceland. Currently, Bosnia a 3/4 goal favorite. Over under is 2.25. Iceland have really fallen off since their incredible run in the Euro, I believe, when they knocked out England, if I remember correctly. That's a long time ago. It's not the same team now. Though, when I look at Bosnia and Herzegovina, they do have some great players. And Dzeko come to mind, but he's aging. They really had trouble scoring goals. I'm pretty interested in Iceland. I feel like I want to get a full 1 goal of insurance, and I don't have that right now. So I'll probably stick to the side on that one. And based on Iceland's performances, is probably a decent idea. Under 2.25 is not a terrible look in that one either. But I do want to see lineups as well. North Macedonia then hosts Malta. Currently, North Macedonia, a 1.25 goal favorite. Over under is 2.5. Juice to the under. Feels pretty respectful for Malta here, I got to say. North Macedonia have shown that they can play good football. They have some good players that are sprinkled throughout Europe. Malta don't have a lot and are a really small nation, so I think I will pass on that one. Denmark then hosts Finland. Denmark currently a 1.25 goal favorite at home. Over under is 2.25. Juice to the over. And that surprises me a little bit. I lean under here, under 2.25, just because Finland is going to try to muck this game up as much as possible. This is a rematch of the match that Christian Eriksen collapsed during the Euro 2020. We played in 2021. Finland got, I think, a victory in that matchup. Crazy. I think there's a lot of questions about Denmark, especially after how poorly they performed in the World Cup. I don't think necessarily any of those questions have been answered. So I'm interested to see, and I kind of feel like I need to see something good from them because I haven't seen it in a while. After how poorly finishing last in their World Cup group, which was one of the easiest out there, was completely bizarre to me. But I do think that Finland can defend here. They're going to try their best. Really, Timo Pukki, we'll see what he does up top, but I'm not even sure if he's playing internationally at this point. Older fellow for sure. But Finland, I think, are regimented, and I know they'll defend. Slovakia then hosts Luxembourg. Currently, Slovakia a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 2.25. Juice to the over. I don't have a lot of insight into Luxembourg, but it's felt like a smaller number than I was expecting. San Marino, 2.75 goal underdog at home to Northern Ireland. Over under 3.25. Juice to the over. Don't have much to say there other than San Marino is historically bad. Portugal then hosts Liechtenstein. Currently, Portugal a 5.75 goal favorite, and it's very juiced. Over under is 6. We'll move on to the next, which is a big one. Italy hosting England. Italy not making the World Cup, big deal. England not progressing as far as anyone expected in the World Cup, though. I mean, they went out to France, so it wasn't a big expectation there, but certainly a lot of hopes and dreams are always wrapped up in the Three Lions. Right now, seeing England as a very juiced favorite on the road at Italy does make me very interested in the Italians. They won this competition or beat England in penalties, if I remember correctly, in the Euro to win that one. Certainly that'll be on the mind of England, but I just think the England national team is a team I want to go against. I don't like their management. I don't like their setup. They're really talented and they don't seem to use it very well. The amount that Harry Maguire plays is terrifying, considering all the other defenders they have at their disposal. Over under is 2. Juice to the over. I don't think there's a ton of goals here. I feel like England is probably more likely to score them, hence they're being favored. But I think my biggest interest is in Italy if they move to a 1/4 goal underdog at home. It's not there yet. And I don't know at 2 that I want to play, as I feel like there's enough firepower in this one it's a very low total though, which does also speak to the underdog being worthwhile at home. Moving to Friday, Bulgaria hosting Montenegro. Currently Bulgaria pick 'em, but very juiced right now. Over under is 2. Juice to the over. It's a little surprising to see Bulgaria rated this sort of level. I mean, I guess they're about even with Montenegro based on being a slight home favorite. Serbia then hosts Lithuania. Currently Serbia a 2.5 goal favorite, very juiced right now. Over under is 3.25. Juice to the over. Serbia can score goals. Lithuania, I don't know how competitive they'll be. France then hosts Netherlands. France a 3/4 goal favorite. Over under is 2.5. Juice to the under. And this is a banger of all matches. France with a very disappointing performance in the final, falling behind like they did to Argentina, but then coming back and forcing extra time and then losing. I mean, it was incredible World Cup. Still one of the best teams in the world, most talent, I think, probably of any country. But there's always a question on how much they like each other, all that sort of stuff. Netherlands, on the other hand, are going through trying to, I think, reestablish themselves as one of the world powers. Are still a great team, great offense. I feel like both these teams are going to go for it. Ultimately, I like France as the better side, but it's a pretty big price right now at home, laying 3/4 of a goal. I'll be looking out to see if Netherlands climb to a full goal, but we don't have that yet. Over under is 2.5, and I feel like that could certainly fly over with how many great offensive players are in this game. So I'm not really interested there. Austria then hosts Azerbaijan. Currently, Austria 1 3/4 goal favorite. Over under is 2 3/4 juice to the over. I don't know how competitive Azerbaijan will be, but that's a pretty expensive price for Austria. Sweden then hosts Belgium. Currently, Sweden a quarter goal underdog at home. Over under is 2 1/4 juice to the over. Belgium going through transition. Roberto Martinez is not there anymore. I believe Domenico Tedesco has taken over. We'll see what he does, but certainly he from Red Bull Leipzig and Schalke in the past. I'm not really sure what type of style he's going to play, and that does give me some concern, I think, as a road favorite in that first matchup. Sweden's great. They have a really talented team. I think I was very disappointed they didn't make the World Cup. I feel like they could have done some damage there. A lot of youth that also is talented there. And Belgium were just aging at such a like incredible rate. I'm very interested in fading them as I don't really believe in them whatsoever. Next, I'll go to Gibraltar hosting Greece. Gibraltar, a 2.5 goal underdog at home. Over under 3 1/4 juice to the under. Makes sense with Greece. We're rare to see them such a big favorite on the road, but Gibraltar is I don't know how many people are even in there. Moldova then hosts Faroe Islands. Currently, Moldova a quarter goal favorite, very juiced on the Faroe Islands side. Over under is 2, juice to the over. Don't have a lot to say there. Czech Republic then hosts Poland in the nightcap on Friday. Czechs are a quarter goal favorite right now with all the juice on Poland. Might be falling down to pick them. Over under is 2 1/4 juice to the over. Czech Republic with a great run in the last Euro, but then didn't qualify for the World Cup. And who knows what they're going to look like with Patrick Schick, who's been completely absent from Bayer Leverkusen this season. Poland with Robert Lewandowski played a lot better, I think, in the World Cup, getting to the next round above Mexico, which was, I think, a surprise for most. I think the Poles are a very interesting underdog here. I think they're potentially the better side, and it feels like they're rated pretty evenly, though I guess the juice is pointing towards this falling to pick 'em. I'm interested in potentially grabbing that Poland number before it falls to pick 'em, but I also, as I said earlier, I'm pretty concerned about lineups and knowing who's playing. So that's probably something I wait and see and might lose it by the time this kicks off. Moving to Saturday, Scotland hosting Cyprus. Currently, Scotland a 1 3/4 goal favorite. Over under is 2 3/4. Juice to the dog and under. Scotland can't really score goals, but I don't know how Cyprus how competitive they will be. Armenia then host Turkey. Currently, Armenia a 1 1/4 goal underdog at home. Over under is 2.5. Juice to the under. The Turkish side is really hard to explain. They were so good, and then in qualifying, and looked like an almost a guaranteed for getting through in the Euro, and then had probably the worst Euro of anyone. And then it's really, I think, impacted how they've played since. We'll see how they kind of respond. And it's a big favorite at Armenia. I definitely lean to Armenia. They don't have a ton of talent on that team, but they are usually pretty good defensively. Maybe 2.5 is under 2.5 is a little bit more interesting than under 1 1/4. I'll probably say that because I don't necessarily believe that Armenia are a team that are going to score a bunch of goals here. Israel then hosts Kosovo. Currently, Israel a 1/2 of a goal favorite, a 1/2 of a goal favorite. Let me say that again: 1/2. Over under is 2 1/4 with no real juice pointing any sort of way. Israel are not a bad team. And they seem to be. It's so far away. I don't even know how they're in the UEFA, but they're there somehow. And maybe financials. I mean, who knows? No one really takes bribes in soccer or anything, but Kosovo are a small nation. They have a lot of fight to them. I think this is going to be a pretty good match. I don't know that 1/2 is enough for me at Israel, considering how well those teams play. And who knows about teams being ready to go down there to a very different climate situation. Belarus, a 1 3/4 goal underdog at home to Switzerland. Over under is 2 3/4, juice slightly to the over. A lot of juice on Switzerland. So this one looks like it's climbing to 2. I don't know that Belarus are that competitive. And it's also very interesting to me that they are allowed to play in this competition, but Russia are not. Croatia then hosts Wales. Currently, Croatia a 1 goal favorite. All the juice on Wales on the road. Over under is 2 1/4, juice to the over. I don't believe in Wales. I'm not sure the status of Gareth Bale. He probably is done. If I missed that retirement, there's not a lot of offense in that team. I think Croatia certainly can score goals, but I feel like their defense has been really good and is probably one that will keep Wales very quiet. So I think under 2.25, if anything, is on my list there. Spain then hosts Norway. Spain, a 1.5 goal favorite. All the juice on Norway on the road, surprisingly. Over-under is 2.5, juice to the over. Norway have a great offense with Odegaard and Erling Haaland, of course. Their defense has always been problematic, but I feel like they've been a lot better than I feel like the market has rated them. Still don't trust the Spain offense whatsoever. I do think this is a good spot for them to potentially score a bunch of goals, but we haven't seen that happen in so long. So why would we expect it now? I do feel like Norway wants to play more aggressive style. Spain want to possess the ball the whole time, which is a good way for them to defend while having the ball. And limit Norway's ability to attack, though I feel like this sets up pretty well for an Odegaard to Erling Haaland through ball for a goal on a counterattack. So I'm pretty interested in both Norway getting that 1.5 goals is monstrous and under the 2.5, just because I don't think Spain is a big favorite or a deserving big favorite because they really haven't performed that way in a long time. Last but not least, in the UEFA qualifying for at least this first leg is Andorra hosting Romania. Currently Andorra 1.75 goal underdog at home, juice to the Romanian side, so potentially climbing to 2. Over under is 2.5, juice to the over. Andorra's a really small nation, hard to say. I'm not sure most people know where it is. I think it's a little pocket in Spain, but I mean, Romania, pretty big road favorite there to say the least, but I do like the Romanians as a team that I think is going to grow a lot in the next couple of years and get really good moving forward. So I guess I might as well get to the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Before I get there, I also want to shout out a new YouTube subscriber, which I really appreciate. JNR922, thanks for getting in there. Appreciate that. Of course, keep a lookout on as I'll pretty much put up all my plays or leans overnight so you can see everything and all these sports that I'm covering at the same time. Certainly picks are still available on pregame.com, and I'll read a promo code there for a second, but I think it might be a little bit more valuable to look at the Patreon that I'm putting up there. I mean, they're different things, so they also could be valuable to do both, but just giving as many people as many options as possible to try to get an idea of what I'm playing the next day. For this pregame.com, use promo code 20% off for all listeners of the soccer podcast. Use promo code WING20, like a wing. I guess you could eat one, or you're a winger or a wing back. WING20, get 20% off for all listeners of the soccer podcast. Good 7 days from the podcast release. Got plenty of college basketball stuff out there, especially with the Sweet 16 kicking off or tipping off tonight. Plenty of the soccer matches also coming through as well. Not expecting a ton of soccer chatter, I gotta say, but anyone that wants to talk about it, please also follow me on Twitter, @the_real_G Warner. And I think that will cover my my portion. So I guess now it's time for the ultimate best bet. Thanks for hanging around. This is betting the pitch number 179 for my ultimate best bet. I really like in this international soccer window, the Ecuador under 2.25 in terms of the friendlies that we're looking at. And then ultimately looking at the Euro qualifiers. I really like Sweden getting 1/4 goal at home. I think from a really in transition Belgium side, but for my best bet for this episode, number 179, I'm going to go with the Ecuador under 2.25 goals. It's an early start in Australia, Friday morning here in the US. Two teams that don't really have a ton of offense, I don't think. In a friendly match, I think they're going to still play the way that they've played for years and years and years, and both of them qualified for the World Cup in this way. Seeing 3 goals seems really unlikely. So I'll go under 2.25. Ecuador, La3 against Australia on the road, very far away from home, but a really cool kind of setup and match play situation. Don't expect a ton of goals in that one. So that'll do it for this episode, Betting the Pitch number 179. Thanks for coming in. A little different, of course, than always, going through international friendlies as we don't have a World Cup or Euro to discuss, but there's qualifying, there's money to be made, and I feel like the international windows have been very profitable. So stick around. We'll probably have another episode on that coming up next week. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. Again, JNR922, thanks for the subscription right there. I just saw that before getting on the podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. I will read one the next time I see a good one. Questions in there also work, or on Twitter, @the_real_G Warner. Hit me up, slide in the DMs, at me, notify me, whatever, tag me somewhere. Instagram as well, Griffin, @the_real_G Warner. Sorry, I almost gave my personal one, but you can follow that too if you want. But anyway, thanks for the support, and we will catch everyone, or I'll catch you all probably tonight on a Patreon college basketball podcast. Talk to you then.